Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Joining me today is Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar, and we are going to be talking about India-US relations. Have they deteriorated over the past few years, and how these need to be bridged and restored to what it was probably around 2020, right after COVID? And I'm just drawing a line. It could be even before that. So let's welcome General Ravi Shankar. General Ravi Shankar, Namaskar. Welcome to PGurus channel, sir. How are you?
Namaskar, thanks a lot, and thanks. We are meeting now a week later on an important topic, India-US relations, and why restoring them is important, why mending fences are important, the works. So let's start.
And our story starts sometime around 2016. Trump and Modi had established a good working relationship. And I think at that time, somewhere around 2017, if I remember correctly, the United States broke its agreement with Iran. And they said that, I don't remember the reason, General Ravi Shankar can fill me in. And at that time, India was getting its oil from Iran. And in order to sweeten the deal for India to not get oil from Iran, the US made a deal with India saying that we will match the price. Not only that, we will bring in a lot of FDI. And that's what happened. Today, India has a comfortable buffer of $600+ billion of FDI reserves. They call it some other name. I don't remember the exact name. Yeah. So India is sitting on a good buffer of foreign exchange. And all this happened during that time. And then we can go from there. General Ravi Shankar, you give us a wrap up on how you see the India-US relations over the past decade or so.
Look, I'll go back to the turn of the century when the relationship started forming. USA had realized that it had made a bad bet on Pakistan and on India before that. So they wanted to, make amends for themselves, not for us. And they started, the India-USA strategic relationship started developing. The origins, I still remember when I was a younger officer. We used to discuss the discussions between Stroop Talbot and Jaswant Singh. So it progressed and it grew from strength to strength. I still remember the time, the discussion between Mr. Mr. Manmohan Singh and Obama. And when Mr. Obama said this would be the defining relationship of this century. Because by then, USA was pretty clear that they'd made a bad bet on China and they needed alternatives. So this then complete Manmohan Singh administration. Then comes the Modi administration. Initially, USA was hesitant, but soon things started changing. The international situation also started changing. And it was in just around COVID. What you said about oil and Iran and all that was in the first part of the Trump administration.
Yes.
And that was basically because of Iran being nuclear and things like that. That was essentially a problem between Iran and USA. India was just there. But our relationship really took off once COVID set in and China came out with its true colors. And suddenly everyone realized that, look, if you want to contain India, you want to contain China, there's no choice for USA but to take India along. And that is how the Quad was formed. It was formed on the push of late Shinzo Abe. They said, look, you want to contain China, you need India. Because look, militarily, it's only India and USA which can match China. Both of them put together, they outmatch China completely. Only we have the military heft. It's only India and USA which can put China in a two-front situation, which China is at present. People don't understand that. China is now facing off on its western border. It's also facing off on its eastern border. And that strategy has worked. I'll come back to this a little later. Things went well. The Quad was formed. Then a lot of things have happened. And then, of course, if you remember last year, when Mr. Modi went to USA, he was seated, the red carpet. He spoke to the Congress, joint session of the Congress and the Senate, and he made a mark. And it probably everyone said, look, India's time has come. Our economy was booming, all that. And it is booming because we are the only big economy which is growing at 6 to 8% annually. China is limping around. China is a make-believe figure of 3 to 4%. Probably it's about 0.5% or 1% growth. And USA is at about 2% growth. In terms of dynamism, India retains its economic dynamism. There'll be problems. Some problems will come up here and there, but you'll see the overall trajectory. It's up. You see the military, it's strengthening day by day. Earlier this year, we had a terrific partnership with China between the North Arabian Sea and the Red Sea to contain piracy and to handle Houthis. A lot of things
with the United States, sir, not China.
United States. So it's a slip of my tongue. Please correct me if I do have a slip of tongue. Please don't hesitate. So we had a good equation with USA, the navies, everything. And suddenly you see this whole story of Bangladesh coming. Then, of course, don't forget the G20, which India conducted so successfully. Where there was no acrimony, no nothing. We had a proper declaration going. And that was the high point of our equation. And USA was there and China was not there. Xi Jinping had not come. So there are a lot of things going for this relationship till this beginning of this year. And suddenly I don't know what. Maybe USA has some elements which are anti-India and pro-Pakistan. That's the way I can best put it. USA starts cribbing about Bangladesh. Then USA is not too happy with the Prime Minister going to Russia or overall stand, because notwithstanding this great partnership which has been going up for the past 24 years, you do find people from USA whining about India, buying Russian oil, not condemning Russia, not all those problems were there. But the Biden administration was very clear that they should continue with India. All that unraveled in Bangladesh, right? And with Sheikh Hasina's ouster, which couldn't have happened without US push. And we have discussed about it. And suddenly you find that the US-India relations are a little frayed. Now, following that, there seems to have, and the way what's happening in Bangladesh is going, there seems to be some sanity in coming back. Suddenly, there is an effort between US and India to mend the relationship. But in these cases, once that problem starts, the US specialists, regime change specialists, they came to Bangladesh, did the trick. They used ISI. Then this new ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, he speaks sweet, but he means something else. That's pretty apparent. And then the US ambassador to Pakistan, going to POK and making some statements there. So these things have started somewhere March, April, May, and things have come to a head now. We are at a stage where we need to mend the relationship, right? What is the current state? I'll come a little later. We need to mend the relationship. Why do we need to mend the relationship? After all, if USA is doing what it wants and we are doing what we want without heat to each other, how does it matter? It matters because China is antithetical to both of us. We can't live with China in peace, and China will not let us live in peace. Our rise will be impeded by China at every stage. And they'll have a problem with the border. We're going to have a problem with the IOR. On our own, we can't handle it. Let's be very clear about it. We'll be hard put to handle it. Unless we have someone's, support. Similarly, USA can't handle both the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific on its own. It's out of the question. Especially since USA is committed heavily in Ukraine and in West Asia, supporting Israel. And with Iran coming up the way it is, USA needs India. That's the bottom line for both. We need each other. But yet, you find that the statements coming out of each other are frayed. Okay. Now let's look at I'll go on a little bit of, I won't say tangent, I'll go on an offshoot. Look at the Indian Ocean region. The Indian Ocean region, or the Indo Pacific, to give a wider connotation, is very critical to USA. If USA loses the Indo Pacific to China, then it can stay home in Hawaii and beyond. Right. So it's been trying to strengthen its relationship with Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, Philippines, everyone. Fine. But the reality there is that all these countries look to China for trade and USA for security. And they're not going to take any sides beyond a point. So then where do they go? Where does USA go? It has to come to India. And with China making noises in the Middle East, peace deals and mediation and all that, and the way China is supporting Russia, and what's happening in the Indian Ocean region, if China gets a foothold in the Indian Ocean region, USA is in trouble. So are we. Let's be very clear about it. And look at what happened in the recent past. Earlier, you had Maldives going out of our grip, and Maldives going under China virtually. After all, the Maldives president ran to China as his first visit. It's only now that Maldives is coming around. Then you have Sri Lanka. There's an issue there. Again, Sri Lanka is turned around because of India and USA. It's a combined effort. And then look at Bangladesh. It's gone on a thing. And like you rightly spoke the other day in your video, USA has made the anthill, but the snake is Chinese inside. Right? And if you see the readings from, or rather writings from Bangladesh, they're all Chinese oriented. They're going to welcome Chinese even more. And we don't know this government where it will go. It's just not going to. Yunus government, firstly, the legitimacy of the government is at stake, because it's not a parliamentary government. It is a government by some decree, a consensual decree. It's not a process which has come out of the parliament or democracy, like it did in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, if you remember, Ranil Wickremesinghe was made the president through a parliamentary process. Here, it's not like that. The existing government has been sent out. You got a guy from outside, and he's been made the CEO. And what is the authority he has? What is the authority he has under Bangladeshi constitution itself is a question mark. And we don't know how he'll perform. We don't know everything. We don't know. They're trying to take one whole chunk of the political party out, Awami League. You can't do that. You see, again, I'll compare Sri Lanka and this. Sri Lanka, notwithstanding the fact that SLPP, Sri Lanka Porumana Podujana, was, and Gotabaksha, Rajapaksha, and Gotabaya Rajpaksha and Mahinda Rajapaksa having been thrown out, still there was a democratic way of coming out of it. Here you're trying to do exactly the opposite. And we don't know who the political forces are. And all of these chaps who are alive, I wouldn't say who are active, seem to be going towards China. And USA doesn't seem to have a game plan here. What is the USA's game plan in Bangladesh? They've done this regime change. Now, probably suddenly USA is realizing that, look, we don't have a game plan beyond regime change. That's what it appears to me. And that's why this quick call between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden. Yeah, please.
We are running away with a lot of information, and I wanted to kind of give in my 2 cents. Sorry for disturbing your narrative, Ravi Shankar, because 2 things that need to be understood by all of you. This is the first time I'm putting out this information. First of all, Eric Garcetti was announced as US ambassador to India, and India was not very comfortable with it. Time went. A year, 6 months, a year, 18 months, nothing was happening. And both sides stood their ground. Neither one wanted to budge. US said that this is going to be your ambassador, and India said no. So finally, the ice was broken, because what was happening also was that Garcetti's team would not meet with India's ambassadors, whether it was Taranjit Singh Sandhu or the local consul general from San Francisco. So finally, a third-party house, like a private meeting, was done, and some exchange took place. Some sort of an agreement was arrived at, and only after that did Eric Garcetti come to India as an ambassador. Remember this, guys. India had some concerns about this fellow. Okay, don't know what it is, but you can go back and look at the time.
There's no doubt. What you're saying is no doubt.
Yes.
And his track record, if you see, is something shifty.
Yes. Now coming back to the other...
I'm being very charitable when I say shifty.
Sir, he's also embroiled in a sex scandal where he's saying that, it's his aid. I mean, come on now. You believe that I have a bridge to sell.
We'll not go into that, but he's shifty.
Yes. Let's get back to what else happened. You said that beyond doing a regime change, the US doesn't know what to do. So this is what I'm getting from my reliable sources. Over 100 people in United States, equal number in United Kingdom and in Bangladesh, worked towards this for a long time. And the 𝗤𝙑 𝗖𝙩 government knew of this even before the election, sir. For the last 6 months, it is believed that the closest circle around 𝗤𝙑 𝗖𝙩, including the lady, have been taking their assets out of Bangladesh and putting them in, which country? I don't know to tell you. It's 5 letters. It's very easy to guess. This is the watering hole of the rich and famous of South Asia. So and so they knew something was going on. The problem is the whole thing appears to have been done for a couple of low to mid-level Department of State people to get a promotion, to put it in their resume. I engineered a regime change, and therefore I should be promoted. It looks like that because what we are seeing now play out is the Bangladesh is getting much more radical. It is not this way. Its moorings are very, very Sanatani. And now they're talking about changing their national anthem, which is Rabindranath Tagore's Amar Sonar Bangla. So this is the only person where 2 countries are actually using his work as the national anthem. So all these things are happening, and it's believed that many meetings took place in Qatar, where all these lumpins that form the current advisory council, whatever you want to call it. They have met with ISI, they have met with many people. There are some stories also that have come out. All this has taken place. They knew it. Unfortunately, India got caught short-footed. I don't know why. I don't know.
Look, I will not say we got short-footed. Probably the moment USA got... Actually, if you go back at G20, during G20, 𝗤𝙑 𝗖𝙩 met President Biden, and there was a patch-up done by our Prime Minister, and then things moved along. At some point of time, USA also grudgingly accepted 𝗤𝙑 𝗖𝙩's re-election, right? But USA being USA did what it did. Possible because of what you did. It's also possible that the ISI led them up the garden path. Look, remember, in USA, there's a strong lobby of Pakistan still existing. USA and Pakistan is still a major non-NATO ally of USA officially, right? So that problem is there. On that, we should not have any doubt at all. So regime changes happened, but beyond that, what's happening? That's the interesting part, and that is why we need to mend these relationship. Because I think having engineered this regime change, though I can understand every Bangladeshi who's watching this will say, no, there was no regime change, there was a revolution. But the history of revolutions, whether it was Orange Revolution or a Tulip Revolution or a Rose Revolution or the Arab Springs, were all instigated from outside. You know, wherever there's a chance for a revolution happened, the instigation came from outside. So this instigation came from outside. Whoever gave it, gave it. Then the revolution has taken place. Now, post-revolution, where will the stability come from? That's the million-dollar question. It's not coming, right? And it's going to take some time. And Awami League is not finished. So whether it's a counter-revolution, whatever you call it, there's an issue within Bangladesh which is playing out. But in this story, what's important is that China is making headway. So once again, you see a situation where ISI has very smartly double-crossed USA and put the Chinese in place. And now there is a feeling within Bangladesh, or rather the outpouring from Bangladesh, though this is our second liberation and things like that. And there's a huge lumpen element, I think, in Bangladesh who want to whitewash their past and make new friends. But we'll talk of the new friends a little later. Right. In this kind of a condition, it's very important for India and USA to get together if USA wants its Indo Pacific strategy to continue to succeed. If it fails, if this strategy fails, USA fails. USA fails. India, whatever happens to India is a different story. USA fails. Can USA afford to have China pussyfooting around Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Maldives? That's the question that USA has to ask itself. For us, it's a no-go situation. So we have to make amends with, I won't say we have to mend fences with USA. So has USA to do it. And I think there's a realization. And the realization was amply evident when our defense minister went and met their defense minister, Secretary of State for Defense, Austin. When they signed the logistics supply agreement and the, agreement to post one officer at their Pacific Command and their officer in India, exchange of officers, which is very important. We shouldn't lose this. And the reaction of this came in South China Morning Post again. That New Delhi, despite all this, has been able to pull out something miraculous. The word used is miraculous. Right? So, I think there's a realization both sides. We need to build back. The first step was taken when, our defense minister went to USA recently. Of course, Prime Minister Modi made the ground by going to Ukraine. That Ukraine thing has been flogged quite a bit. I'm not going over it. So there's a realization. Now the issue which I have to speak of, and I'll come to Bangladesh and its friends. I'm not letting go. The issue which we have to understand is virtually the Biden administration is on its last legs. Right? So whatever you deal with USA, will it go into the next administration? We don't know which the next administration is because the uncertainty of the US elections itself. So will it go over is a question mark. So hence, for the next 4 to 5 months, nothing significant will improve within our relationship. The only positive so far left on which we rebuild is the defense equation. See, between any two countries of this stature, what are the equations you build on? You build on the defense equation, you build on the diplomatic equation, and you build on the economic equation. Defense equation is the strongest because the American defense system hates the Pakistanis after they got double-crossed in Afghanistan. And they now are leaning towards India in a big way. That's the strongest. Our defense cooperation has grown. The State Department was the foreign affairs, external affairs, India. That relationship from our side is okay. I think within the State Department, there's still a Pakistani lobby running strong. And that keeps upsetting the apple cart. And the State Department, I'll just finish, has a State Department versus the rest of the thing. They have a history. They had this problem in Afghanistan. One of the reasons why they had to run away from Afghanistan was there was lack of coordination between the State Department and their defense. And the third is the economic alignment. Economically, a lot of noise has been made, but it has not taken forward. The choice is go ahead with green economies and things like that. So, but the fundamental is defense. Can you take any major step now? No. Right? So this is where we are at this point of time, stuck. So your thing. Sorry, I didn't thought. Yeah,
I just
please.
wanted to compliment your observation about how much of a hold Pakistan has in the Department of State. Can we have the slide deck, please? Ever since he came to power, Joe Biden came to power, there has been, a preference to get people from specific advisory firms. Advisory firms are, glorified name for lobbyists. And they have their lobbyists, they have their funders, and they have their interests. Once the funders put in a certain money, they expect their people who will go into the administration to do their job. Now, if you take a look at one such very powerful lobbying firm called Macro Advisory Partners, I'm just going to share with our viewers. I've done this once in the past, but I want to do it again because it makes sense to understand how much of a hold Pakistan has in United States Department of State. Next slide, please. See these three people? The director of CIA, Macro Advisory Partners, Bill Burns. Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, Macro Advisory Partners. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, now no longer there, Victoria Nuland, Macro Advisory Partners. Now Donald Lu, and there's another guy, I think some Campbell or something like that. Who is Macro Advisory Partners? These are the two people running Macro Advisory Partners. One is an Iranian American, the other one is a Pakistani American. I mean, it's not even, 4 levels deep that somebody has to go in and connect the dots and say, okay, this may be, this may be. It is very direct here. And this was the most influential group in the Biden administration. I'm not saying anything that they did right or wrong, but I can tell you this is what is the pedigree. You make your own conclusions.
No. I'll just add one point. You go back in time. Just have to go back in time. When President Biden was a vice president, he went to visit to Pakistan. After calling on the president and the prime minister of Pakistan, this man, as a vice president of USA, went and called on the chief of Pakistan Army. Okay. Unprecedented, but he did it. So you're talking of, so you're just, substantiating what we have been talking. The Pakistan element in the State Department is a spoiler of India-US relations. And that I have no doubt. I mean, these are all recorded. What I'm talking of is recorded. So how do you build back is the challenge. And this challenge won't, run away, or rather it will resurface only in January, February. So for the next 4 months, this problem will remain. Now, the danger of this problem remaining is Sri Lanka is going for elections. How will the elections come out? As I see it, you're going to have someone else new coming, and it's going to be in a troubled state, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is under IMF program. Superficially, it appears that Sri Lanka has turned the corner in its economy, but there's a lot of poverty. And Sri Lanka is not strong. It is little shaky there. Things are shaky there. And in this, it's still indebted to China in a big way. If China armed twists Sri Lanka, then the whole story starts back. Hambantota, this, that, research ships coming here and all that. And to stop all that, only India can do it. Because in Sri Lanka, there is a feeling that, look, India was stood by them. That's fine. But India on its own can't do, stop China from entering into Sri Lanka. You need USA for that. And USA is missing in action. Unless it has, the whole lot of them have come together and said, look, a bipartisan mode will rise to the occasion. Look at Maldives. Maldives, you're just about turning the situation back. It's now, I think Maldives is in a problem now. Their bonds are up due for redemption and they don't have money. So the choice is ours, India's, whether India will step up and, bail out Maldives along with USA. Because again, here, you can't do it alone. If neither USA or China, India does it, China will do it. So there is an issue. Why you need this cooperation? Then what do you do with Bangladesh? What does Bangladesh do with itself? You see, more than anything, okay, people in Bangladesh have gone through a revolution. How does Bangladesh come out of it? Right? So there is a major issue in this where India and USA have to sit together and talk. And in this thing, I think USA needs to come more than halfway. Because look, it's not just getting hold of one stupid island from where you can fly a few aircraft across Burma into Yunnan. There's much more. And you're dealing with a population of 197 million people, Bangladesh. You can't wish them away. Okay. Now, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, while there is a lot of anti-India feeling, to the extent of being malevolent, I'm using this word malevolent, because in all the videos which we have done, the general feeling I get from Bangladesh is anti-India. Okay, they want to revise their own history, right? And they want to seek new friends. Who are their new friends? USA might be their friend, but it's not doing anything for them. Doesn't appear. There's no aid, no nothing. They put Yunus there. Whether Yunus will survive or not is a $1 million question. But the populace wants to go towards China. So let's talk of China first. China and Bangladesh, and then we'll... You see, everyone wants to go to China because China will give them a lot of arms, they'll give them a lot of help, and they'll revive their economy and BRI and investment and all that. But Bangladesh has to understand the implication of going to China. And what is the whole thing with China, Bangladesh? Now, Bangladesh is a country where they survive on water of Jamuna and Ganga, that is Brahmaputra and Ganga, and that is their biggest problem also. So why am I talking of all this? Remember the dam which China was building on Brahmaputra? What will happen if the dam comes up? It's coming up, it will not stop. So what happens if the dam comes up? Water in Brahmaputra will reduce. What happens if water in Brahmaputra reduces? India will survive. The problem will be for Bangladesh, their best friend, right? Bangladesh, what will happen? Salinity will come up, because if water flow in Brahmaputra reduces, seawater will come up. And if seawater comes up, what will happen? Their crops will go down. So they'll have food security issues. Then fish, which is their major crop they have to live on fish. The fishing thing goes down. Groundwater goes down, because in Bangladesh today there's a overexploitation of groundwater, sweet water, and that sweet water comes up because of Brahmaputra river. There's a problem. This is the long-term problem, right? Tomorrow's problem. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen because their best friend on which they're banking to revive their economy is going to kill them this way. In which case, Bangladesh will never recover. Right? They'll be short of water for good. Okay, this is not the only thing What about other things as far as China is concerned? Bangladesh and China had an agreement, right, on sharing weather and all that. Why? Because if there's, say, more than adequate or more discharge from in Brahmaputra, say it happens somewhere near Assam in the higher reaches, and there's a heavy outburst and pouring and all that, and that is told to Bangladesh, then Bangladesh itself prepares for a flood. Okay. India and Bangladesh have an arrangement. We tell them. China and Bangladesh also have an arrangement, and so far they have not warned Bangladesh even once, Chinese. So Bangladesh is putting all its eggs in the Chinese basket, where China is not going to give them anything. And if the dam comes, the worst sufferers will be Bangladesh. But it's nice to have a revolution. What about the day after the revolution, when you have to feed 197 million people? You will have nothing. So Bangladesh has to realize where it is going in China. Now let's talk of the newfound friend Pakistan. Okay, there we discussed last time that Bangladesh is going to get ammunition from Pakistan and all that. Bangladesh should realize what happened. Who are the butchers of Bangladesh? If you go to Los Angeles Times or New York Times and all these international Newsweek, go to those days, 1971. Who's the butcher of Bangladesh? Tika Khan. Who's the other butcher of Bangladesh? Niazi. Who are they? They're not Chinese, they're not Indian, they're Pakistani. And if you see, there's one headline I read recently. It's the rape which, no one wants to acknowledge, but Bangladesh can't forget. But I think today's generation has forgotten that. The rape was whose? How many people died? 5 million people were either raped or brutalized or who died. What are the number of people who went away as refugees? Who took care of them? People seem to be forgetting who's their friend and who's their enemy. And today you want to make good with Pakistan? Go ahead. It's no water off our back, right? So what is at stake? Despite Bangladesh is spewing venom at India, we've been giving them electricity. There's an oil pipeline which is going there, and so many other things, even weather warning, everything. So if everyone in Bangladesh says, oh, India is someone who's trying to exploit us, XYZ, fine, so be it, be happy. Continue. Ask China, ask Pakistan for all these things, they'll give you. In any case, China has not given you. Let's see after this, they'll give you. So Bangladesh has to realize. But let's look beyond that. We can handle Bangladesh on our own. It's not a big issue. It's just not a big issue. We can handle it. We've had India has shown tremendous strategic patience in handling Sri Lanka, in handling Maldives, and turning things around. We've turned things around in Maldives. We've turned things around in Sri Lanka. It's all 2 to 3 years. We have the experience of that. We'll handle Bangladesh also. But where does Bangladesh go? But most importantly, what does USA do? What does USA do for the Indo Pacific? If these 3 things are not sorted out, then what happens next? And India and USA have to realize between themselves from the situation they've created for China. Why you want to take it back? Look at what's happening today. Chinese PLA is completely deployed against our border and stretched. On the other hand, they are now stretched up to Philippines, the Navy. So China is squarely in a 2-front situation, looking 2 different directions altogether. Now, if India and USA doesn't mend fences, China will go back to its old, story. And then what? Then where does it leave USA? More than USA, where does it leave Taiwan? So there are a lot of stakes involved with India-USA relationship not being good. It's not only Bangladesh, it's not only USA, it's not only Sri Lanka, it's not only Maldives. It goes back this side. Philippines is at stake today, right? There's almost a war between China and Philippines, and also Taiwan. Taiwan's security is dependent on how India and US relationship goes. There are enough studies to suggest that USA will not be able to handle China nearer China. Enough studies. And this study, the best study is one RAND discussion which came out, RAND study, it came around 2013-14, that with every passing day, China is getting stronger nearer home and USA is relatively getting weaker. It's only when China comes out that it is relatively weaker. But that equation is changing. Whatever is happening in China is one different story. Their military is not stopping anywhere. Their space program is not stopping anywhere. The cyber programs are not stopping anywhere. Their AI progress is not stopping anywhere. So they are a live and present and clear danger to USA and India. So you need to have stronger relations. So my problem today is they're not that good. You have a base. So what will happen in January, February is something we'll have to see. Look, I've touched a whole lot of issues today. I've gone all over. I'm sure you have questions. I'm sure, Sree, you also have questions to clarify. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, General Ravi Shankar. I think we'll just go with the question because there are quite a few, and I would like to still finish by 55 or 56 minutes. Let's take the questions, please. Jaya Raman wants to know, Sree, my husband and I are the only members in the family in India while the whole family is in US. I'm unable to decide to move as my hatred for what US is doing to my India disturbs me. This is temporary phase, don't worry.
Yeah, it'll go off. Don't worry. Yeah.
It used to be much worse till the 1990s.
No, things are okay. I'm confident that will turn.
Yeah. Thank you, Jayaji. Next one. Thank you, Full Metal Heart. Sir, it shocks me to see that there is no YouTube news on Garcetti meeting Kharge, and one Republic World News video is showing us blocked, and he says respect democracy and freedom. What is USA planning?
Look, let's be clear on one thing. Garcetti meeting Kharge is not out of context. After all, our ambassador, when he goes to China, say Sri Lanka, meets every party. So why shouldn't he meet? So you have to have that vision to say, look, we are in a democracy. If you don't want that ambassador to meet our opposition leader, then you're not open to democratic principles. So to that extent, I will leave it out, right? So what is USA planning? It's not planning anything else. It's keeping its option open with everyone. So that's about all as far as our internal thing goes. You think it's going to undermine your democracy? Look, USA will do all its stunts, but it can't. And it won't also beyond a point. USA knows that, fingering India has got limits. And across the board, someone has to remind the Congress party that, you go back to the times, one of the biggest problems we've had was with the USA, whether during the Bhopal gas tragedy or even before, during 71 ops. So everyone knows that USA can't be trusted beyond a point. And our fundamentals, as far as our way of governing everything and their way of governing and outlook, there's a difference. So I will leave it at that. But overall, Garcetti is trouble.
Next one, please. Thank you so much, Full Metal Hype. I have noticed that whenever there's news about Russia and India, some guy meets opposition. Recent one secret trade ring between India and Russia and peace talks.
There's nothing of this thing. I mean, one shouldn't bother beyond a point about this.
Yeah.
I think we've handled this quite okay.
Full Metal Heart again, thank you. It's time India joins China and Russia. USA is a cheat. Oh, no.
I'd rather live with USA and Russia the way it is than go with China. Okay, let me put this Full Metal Heart. Next week, I'm going to give a talk on the border, the border problem and China's perception of the border problem. See, most of the time we have a perception of the border problem. What does China have? What's China's perception? Once you realize what China's perception is, and this is from Chinese authors and from Chinese sources, I've gone, downloaded articles from their think tanks in Chinese and translated them with Google and made sense out of it, and I've made a presentation. And this presentation I gave to a set of army officers in army headquarters recently. And the same thing I'm going to talk to you people. Then you'll realize that there is no way you can join China. Okay? Just no way. You have to live with the current equation the way it is.
Next one, please. Jaya Raman, thank you so much. Will Modi sail through crisis or will he be toppled?
There's no toppling in India. Don't worry.
Next one, please. Tibet Monk, thank you so much for your super sticker. Tibet Monk wants to know, the partnership between PGurus and General Shankar is long-standing, unwavering, and has significantly enriched our understanding over time. We're truly fortunate to have the two of you working together. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Sundar Kidambi wants to know, sir, will defense tech transfer occur if Trump becomes POTUS?
Yeah, it will. Because the whole thing started with Trump. It will happen.
Sparkly Spritz wants to know, is the US deep state trying to trip up India in South Asia to incur heavy reputational damage? The price of a permanent UNSC seat is going up. Could it still be worth though?
Look, you shouldn't worry too much about it. The US deep state, like I told you, at some level is antithetical to India. And probably this whole story is to not let India become too powerful. And it wants to remind us that, look, we're still there. But that's okay. You have to deal with USA the way it is. Okay. See, for us, it's very simple. Let me put it. India has to decide whether it wants to align with USA to tackle China or align with China to tackle USA. So, which is the better option? And everyone will tell you it's better to align with USA to tackle China. Okay. So, we'll leave it at that. The price of a permanent US seat is going up. It's not going up. It's not going down either. It is an inevitability which will happen. You have to have patience. As we become big boys in the world, you have to have more patience.
Next one, please. Future DG Artillery wants to know, sir, what have we done to the State Department that no matter what, they can't rid themselves of the hate, dislike of us and love for Pakistan? They all know Pak army was double timing them as well as Laden.
Yeah, I agree with you. Very valid observation you made. State Department has a memory which I think is not institutional, right? Whereas the Defense Department has an institutional memory. The reason is why. The Defense Department has to people deal with casualties, and casualties leave a lasting memory. So, a lot of people died in Afghanistan, a lot of people died in Iraq. So the Defense Department has a different mental construct, right? So they are very clear that Pakistan is a no-go for them. Or rather, they are very clear about how to handle Pakistan. I wouldn't say the same about the State Department. One of the biggest problems of USA, historically, I'm not talking about now, historically, is that the State Department, to some extent, doesn't always toe a straight line. And to a large extent, it actually probably even manipulates the presidencies. Again, this is not, a shot in the dark kind of a statement. You go through the history, it is there. It is historical and recorded. And State Department has a lot of lobbies. State Department is open to lobbies. And the Pakistan lobby has been very strong, not from now, from 1947. So you can't overnight change these things. So we have to deal with this inconsistency from USA. We need to have the bandwidth to handle this.
Remember, viewers, CENTO, SEATO, all these were treaties that were signed by US and Pakistan. Some money came to Pakistan, and that money found its way back to US by way of lobbying. So this was a win-win for many people in the State Department, I'm sure. So this is how all these things happen. Even now, you think the IMF loan is all going to go into the development of Pakistan? Next one.
No, it's going to go to the development of all their generals. Let's be very clear. I'll talk about it. We should be very clear on what we are talking. Yeah.
Next one, please. Shriti Kothari wants to know, sir, were these recent visits to Poland, Ukraine, and US to placate US? Because they seem angry at PM visiting Russia. Garcetti even threatened us, saying no war is too far from India. Best way to handle US?
Look, I told you in the beginning, Garcetti is a shifty guy as far as I'm concerned. And like what Sree ji said, we didn't probably want him also. Even before he came here, we knew he was trouble. So that gives you a clear idea that there's one lobby within US State Department and the government who wants to keep a pinprick into India, and this follows that. So you have to handle him. Now that you know what he is, you handle him accordingly. Now this visit to Poland, Ukraine, and US, there's a different ball game altogether. Why Ukraine? At the end of the day, I'm sure the Prime Minister would have had gone and spoken to Putin and spoken something. Then there's a reaction from Russia. Put both these together, he must have felt, let me go to Ukraine and talk. And the Prime Minister, I'm sure, very well knew that he's not going to get a great reception from Ukraine. Or rather, it won't be a warm relationship like it was with this thing. So despite that, he went. That's one. Number two, you need Ukraine for technology, gas turbines, engines, both Antonov aircraft. You need. So that is the second part of the story. Then the third part of the story is reconstruction. At some point of time, this will come to an end, and there'll be reconstruction of Ukraine. And for that, I think India has a huge role to play. Right? Trade and reconstruction will start. Still, Ukraine remains one of the biggest suppliers of sunflower oil worldwide. And last but not the least, as Mr. Putin has come out recently and said, he believes only 3 countries can mediate. The Ukraine and Russia problem. He's putting his bets on India, China, and Brazil. China won't be allowed to mediate by the West. Who's acceptable then? It's only Brazil and India. And this story, who will be acceptable or some talk of that, we'll see when Brazil hosts the next G20. After all, the next G20 is just about 2-3 months away. I think maybe next month in Brazil. So let's see then. Let's wait. And maybe India and Brazil will get together and to mediate. Then the whole story changes. You have to look at many of these things, not from the immediate, from the long term.
Next one.
Things are playing out. Yeah.
Thank you, Shyam Tarun, for your super sticker. Arunachal Mudgerikar wants to know, J&K is a point of friction with Pakistan. What is with USA? Is it friendship with Russia? Fear of alliance with China?
Look, USA is very clear. It doesn't want you to be too close to Russia. And look, China, I don't think, USA is also pretty clear that we'll never be okay with China. We are also very clear that USA will not be ever hereafter close to China. So to that extent, J&K being a point of friction, is it so? That's the question, because all of us have this view that J&K is a point of friction. My view is that's gone. It's no more there. Right? We need to look beyond that. And Arunachal, you've been coming a lot on my shows and asking these questions. My view is that it's time that we started being proactive on J&K, and for many reasons. And you transfer the problem from our part of the J&K to across the LOC into the Pakistan part of the J&K. A lot of bridges, I won't say a lot of bridges, a lot of fires will be lit. And those will, go to the right places, including problems for China. And maybe someday we'll discuss about it.
Next one, please. Maithili wants to know, Namaskaram Shankarji, is it true that amidst all the sanctions against Russia which USA had put, it is buying nuclear fuel from Russia?
I wouldn't know that. I mean, honestly.
This has been bandied about in a couple of channels.
Maybe.
Shrikant wants to know. General Sir Sree Iyerji mentioned Japan restructuring dollar assets. Could there be a churn on China's eastern front?
Yeah, possible. It's highly possible. Already China is worried. In fact, the Chinese are worried about Japanese and Koreans going nuclear. That's their biggest nightmare. If you think of it from that point of view, just think in the eastern end, you're going to have China, Russia, USA, South Korea, Japan, and North Korea. Don't forget the joker on the pack. So 6 nuclear powers in that area is a problem for China. So China has a plate full. We don't realize it. You look at China from within China, they have a plate full.
Nuclear grenade with the finger on the pin. Varna.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much, General Ravi Shankar. Truly wonderful session today, sir. And viewers, you're watching this on both PGurus and Ghana Shot. Please subscribe to the respective channels if you have not already done so. We'll be back with General Ravi Shankar very soon. Namaskar.
Namaskar.